It's the Weekly Wrap with your host, broadcasting legend Bruce Wolf, and his trusty sidekick, comedian Tim Slagle. And now, without further ado, Bruce Wolf.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap, and a new wrinkle to our opening. Instead of some reveal of some ersatz scene behind Tim, we've got on location. I've got to guess what location Tim is, and I'm thinking that, Tim, you are squirreling away some of those boxes of classified documents from Mar-a-Lago, and you've made your way from Florida, and right now you're probably in Kentucky and meeting up with Sheriff Timothy Oliphant in the TV series Justified, which my wife and I love so much. Am I right about that?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I'm in my car.
You're in your car, and
I'm in a thunderstorm in Atlanta.
In Atlanta.
The tornado sirens are going off as we speak.
Oh, seriously? Is it possible we'll see a twister?
Maybe.
You know what's interesting is remember that we had these tornadoes in Elgin last week. I don't know if you recall that. My daughter was taking her son home, my grandson home, and ran right up against a twister that was about 200 yards away. And instead of going into a ditch like she's supposed to do, she just spun around and went down another street. So, but it would be great to see one right now with you. But do go into a ditch.
Well, that's what I would have done if I would have been in Elgin. I would have pulled out my phone and tried to get a video of it.
Sure, that's what everybody does nowadays. We're all Abraham's Zapruders now, and so Tim, are you actually parked? Yeah, you're not moving right now.
No, yeah. I'm not. Well, it's I'm parked in the Georgia State parking lot right now. It's okay. Which is actually moving a little bit faster than the traffic here in Atlanta.
I think Bernie Lincecum once called Atlanta the office of the South. It's not like when General Sherman went down there, and knocked over Tara. It's pretty cosmopolitan there. All right, well, it looks appropriately awful down there. Thanks for joining us for a few minutes here. And the first topic, of course, you just can't avoid it, but that video of Joe Biden sitting there with the president of Israel, and Biden's head is sunk into his chest and he's mumbling something. Do we have that video there? Yeah, there it is. And it was almost comprehensible what he was saying, but let's hear it. Yeah, they should have closed caption for the mumbling impaired. And the president of Israel.
Well, actually, I think they have I think what they do for Biden is they have a White House closed captioner that actually types in what he's supposed to be saying.
Right. Yes. Well, and that goes in conjunction with this whole new no labels campaign. You got people like Manchin and others. There's a poll out that I think came out today. I was listening to the commentary podcast that says that 47% of the public would favor a third party candidate, and it's difficult to tell how impactful that is because we don't have measurements from years past on what would be acceptable. What was the Perot year like in 92, but now just is your gut feeling that people are ripe for a third party candidacy?
I don't know. What are we going to have? Are we going to have candidates in like all white with a big orange stripe across their chest and just it says candidate, like the old generic fad of the late 70s?
Yeah, there would have to be some sort of compromise. I mean, it would have to be a candidate who believes that the COVID virus was targeted not to hit Jews, but also is probably anti-LGBTQ, something like that. I don't know. It would be some kind of conflation or combination that we haven't seen. Yeah, I mean, just think about it. It just popped in my head. I mean, in the old days, you had a coalition of Democrats who were very liberal, and yet you had Dixiecrats as well, segregationists. Joe Biden befriended these people, and that's not holding anymore. It's a whole new paradigm, as we'd say, and I don't, I think that I could find myself voting for Trump, even though if he's not convicted on a majority of the indictments, I think I could vote for him. But
what's the over under, Bruce? How many indictments how many convictions do they have to have before you won't vote for them?
I'm thinking there might be one conviction before the election. I mean, the latest thing with Jack Smith going to the Subway sandwich. I have more trust in Jared at the Subway store than this Jack Smith. But yeah, and then it's such a blur, because even people who follow this stuff closely are just having a hard time remembering all this stuff. And what about the mass of the public? I mean, your eyes glaze over after a while. It works to Trump's benefit. The more indictments, the merrier. It's just people can't pay attention to this stuff. But yeah,
would Nelson Mandela have gone anywhere if they hadn't thrown him in prison? I mean, come on.
Exactly.
There's no better way for a dissident to achieve popularity than to be imprisoned.
Well, and of course, that's why Biden was with Mandela, as we well know, in some mythological universe.
But will he visit Trump in prison?
That I don't think. I don't think that's going to happen. So, meantime, of course, we also had remember Cocaine Gate. So that's over and done with, right?
Well, yeah, Cocaine Gate never happened.
Yeah, we can't.
It's down the memory hole along with the baggie.
Right. We and we're just supposed to pretend like nothing happened. There's nothing to see here. Do you remember this movie from 1967? And what is this show if not a trip down the memory hole, the hole of memory lane? I think it was The Guide for the Married Man with Robert Morse, a young Robert Morse, and Walter Matthau. And Robert Morse was trying to teach Walter Matthau how to cheat on his wife. And he was giving him all kinds of examples of what to do. And in one scene, they see Joey Bishop. I just love mentioning him on this. Joey Bishop. The lesson in this one was deny, deny, deny. Joey Bishop is caught by his wife in bed with another woman in their own bedroom. And Joey Bishop and the other woman just are seemingly oblivious to the wife, and just pretend that nothing has happened here. They get up, they make the bed, they get dressed all nonchalantly, and the wife is absolutely flummoxed. Thank you, Chris, for a guide for the married man. I forgot who was actually in that movie with Matthau. Oh, Jack Benny was in it. Lucille Ball, Phil Silvers, Jane Mansfield when she still was capitated. So that the moral of the story,
that is like PhD level gaslighting.
Well, yeah, and that's what Biden is doing. I mean, they're doing it up and down the line. They've done it. It's all denied, and you think that it's like what we're coming up on. We just passed the anniversary of Chappaquiddick. I mean, and that's the classic, right? So this girl drowns, and then he goes out to brunch with his buddies to talk about the party, and then all of a sudden finds a neck brace. Oops. And then he's elected to about 18 terms in the Senate from Massachusetts, and he makes amends by becoming the liberal lion, as Tom Brokaw would say, of the Senate. Otherwise, he probably would. The Kennedys were not basically liberal politicians. I mean, Joe was probably not a neo-Nazi, a Nazi. That's when the Nazis were at the forefront. But but you know,
well, it depends on how you spell lion, isn't it? Doesn't it?
You got that right, buddy. You got that, boy. You know, I'll tell you, Tim. You know, here you are. You're stuck. Well, not in traffic exactly, but you're sitting in your car. And it was so nice of you to turn off the FM radio and be with us for a couple of minutes here. I really appreciate it. So where's your? So are you gonna? You're not gonna make it all the way back to town today, right? You're gonna stop over somewhere, aren't you?
I'm not sure. It depends on how tired I get. I this is this is my trade is driving. It's when you do comedy,
Yeah.
it's kind of the opposite. Everyone else they drive, commute for an hour and then work for 8. I commute for 8 and work 1.
Yeah. I mean, you can't just get out of the car after 8 hours and then do a set, can you? I mean, you've got to prep
I
somehow,
have.
take a shower or something, right?
No, I have. No, that's why I got a battery operated electric razor. So, back when I shaved.
Exactly.
I would change clothes while I was driving. I would put on my suit and tie while the car was moving towards the gig, and I would get there like 1 minute before I was supposed to go on stage. So
And were you doing your act in the rearview mirror? I mean, just seeing how the rearview mirror reacted to you, because that mirror is not the greatest audience in the world. I mean, it's a reflection of you, I guess, but it's kind of difficult. Well, all right,
I've never found the guy in the mirror funny.
So there we go. Look, safe travels. Good talking to you again. We'll pick it up. We got some other guests coming on the rest of the way. Yeah. Drive safely out there. Okay. Thanks, Tim.
Okay, Bruce. See you next week.
Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
COVID-19, there's an argument that it is ethnically targeted. COVID-19 attacks certain races disproportionately. The races that are most immune to COVID-19 are because of the structure of the genetic structure of genetic differentials among different races of the receptors of the ACE2 receptor. COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and Black people. The people who are most immune are Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese.
Bruce Wolf on the Weekly Wrap. Sans Tim, who's in transit now, coming back from a gig. I think I'm in the continental United States. I don't know, but he's a long way away. But Chris, our producer, is here. And how do you doing there? You're like Mr. Snerdley. Although he never even actually talked, did he, during the Rush Limbaugh show? I couldn't stand to, that was one big reason I couldn't stand to listen to Rush Limbaugh. He sounded like a guy in a padded cell, just bouncing off the walls. You got to have somebody to talk to. So Chris, feel free to chime in here. RFK Jr., I guess he wasn't really saying that COVID was designed to kill everybody except the Jews, but it sure came off that way. He said COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and Black people. Okay, so yeah. This is the guy who is scaring Joe Biden. So it's interesting, and the Democrats are having a lot of trouble with the Jews too, because they just had to pass the other day a overwhelming resolution in support of Israel, well, saying that Israel isn't a racist state. So they're realizing that they still know where their bread is buttered, but they alienated the Jews for quite a while. But I know, coming from a family where FDR was God, and my father, God rest his soul, to his dying day was still liberal Democrat. Eventually you can alienate your base.
Isn't it ironic, though, that the same group of the quote unquote squad can say without having to walk back anything that the United States is a racist state?
Oh yeah, it's just, I mean, the indulgence in the squad, I mean, is something. It's amazing. But we have our own indulgences. Yesterday, we were recording this on Thursday, so they had this really good hearing. I thought it was great for the Republicans, and I hope you did too. Where you brought up the IRS guys who were liberal Democrats. One of them's a gay Democrat, and they basically said that Biden and the DOJ had stonewalled the whole Hunter investigation. They run out the clock. It was like the Dean Smith four-corner offense. They ran out the clock, and the statute of limitations kicked in on failing to pay taxes in 2014 and 2015. And subsequent to that, the DOJ slow walked this whole thing, and these guys are credible witnesses. And the Democrats, when they got their chance to talk, they didn't know what to say, so they obfuscated, they distracted, and talked about Trump. So now Marjorie Taylor Greene didn't disappoint, and this is why there's no jobs for me in radio anymore, because when a member of Congress is a shock jock, there's no room left for people like me. She actually showed a video of Hunter in flagrante, and the thing had to be mosaicked out or blocked out by Fox, which was the only network that was showing this, because the rest of the networks don't really think it's a big deal that all this happened. Did you like what you saw or what you heard about this hearing yesterday?
Did I like the images that MTG held up? I thought the hard task, obviously, that the Democrats group together beforehand and get their message down, and you got to sit in this room and they go, okay, what do we got to do? We got to defend the IRS and we got to defend Hunter Biden. And you just go, what the heck are we going to say? And it was odd. You're right. They pivot to Trump on things. There was nothing they could say that it was going to be a popular thing to say. How are you defending a guy that gets to, run out the clock, as the one guy said, at least $120,000 in unpaid taxes for Hunter Biden, when you have to sit there and try to defend it? So what can you do? I mean, you
use the term 11 million, because it was an $11 million evasion.
Right.
They're trying to say, oh no, they really could have,
don't you think
forgotten about this. And then of course they say that this Weiss, the Delaware prosecutor, was a Trump appointee, but that's a pro forma thing. It's the two senators from Delaware who decide who the appointee is. So I mean, they're disingenuous about this whole thing. But I like the fact that you've got this whistleblower who's a gay Democrat. It's got to take a gay Democrat to bring down the Biden administration, just like it took a Republican Nixon to go to China. I mean, this is one of those watershed moments when you can't keep the gay Democrat on your side, and he's catching flack from the Democrats for pursuing this. Yeah. Speaking of Nixon going to China, did you see this? I saw a tweet about Henry Kissinger. Is he really 100 years old now? I mean, he must be, because he was going to China with Nixon in like 72 or 73. But he apparently was still doing diplomacy with China now at age 100. And the only thing I could think of when I saw the picture, first of all, I thought he was dead, but he's not. Yeah, Xi and Kissinger saw each other. The only thing I could think of, if Kissinger's 100, how old is Jill St. John, who was his girlfriend back then? And
here it goes, turned 100 on June 20th.
June 20th, and he's still. Now I see the picture of him, and his head is kind of sunk into his chest too, but he looks alert, as opposed to Biden, who looked comatose when he was sitting next to the president of Israel. But in any event. I thought score one for the Republicans yesterday. Now, turning locally here, the Supreme Court of Illinois upheld the constitutionality of the no cash bail law. So it's going to be a free-for-all in the city of Chicago. There was a Sun-Times story I read, and they had a link to a story that said studies have shown that when you get rid of cash bail, there's no great increase in crime. My response to that is, when there is the increase, the fallback excuse will be, well, we got to look at the root causes, which is, the raison d'etre for the Mayor Johnson administration is to look into root causes. And you know what? I think you could wrap your head around both things. You can look for the root causes, which basically, you're just going to write it off to, slavery or whatever. And still try to keep the neighborhood safe for the people who are there. But, in the interest of ideology, the neighborhoods aren't safe. The people who want to go to private schools can't do that. And the impact is always on the poor people in the neighborhoods. And they're the ones who are going to have to pay for this. But yeah, go ahead.
Couldn't an argument be made that with Kim Foxx the last 6 years, it's essentially been no cash bail anyway?
Right.
That's
de facto.
Yeah.
It's de facto no cash bail. Look, I saw a survey that said millennials believe that misgendering should be criminalized. And so I'm thinking, thank goodness cash bail is over, because I wouldn't be able to, I'll get out of jail, on my own recognizance when I misgender a millennial. I mean, these kids are crazy, aren't they?
Didn't we talk about this last week or the week before that in Michigan that this passed? So that this is a law. You can't misgender.
Yeah, I can't. I'd have to read the fine print because it looked like you could be fined up to $10,000, and I just.
But But Tim was defending it, or he talked to his sister because she's on the Congress or the Assembly of Michigan, saying that, you can accidentally do it. Like who determines if you accidentally?
Well, if it's mere negligence, and not recklessness, or you didn't do it intentionally. Maybe it's only a $5,000 fine. Speaking of other legislative moves, I guess the House doesn't want to subsidize abortions in the military. And who's that guy? This is where my senior writers. No, not Tuberville. Is it Kirby? The guy,
John Kirby, the spokesman, John Kirby.
Yeah, the spokesman. He was making like, this is a fundamental right, and it's going to impact our military readiness. And I'm thinking, you know what? It's a good thing we don't really fight wars anymore. If this is where the battle is, because right now we've got a situation where people, reasonable people can disagree on how we should fund the war in Ukraine. But the fact is that we don't really have thousands of troops fighting in Ukraine.
Yeah.
I don't want to diminish what happened in Iraq, because every life is important. But it was about 4,000 people, soldiers who died in Iraq, and that was untenable for us. It was 10 times that many or 12 times that many that died in Vietnam. And don't get me going on what World War II and the Civil War were like, but this is why we have fights over whether female soldiers, and I hate to say, because even male soldiers obviously can get pregnant nowadays, this is where the battle is joined, because we're not really talking about war. Good God, y'all. We're talking about just I don't want to call it a social club, because there are moments when we actually do have to defend the nation, but it's beyond the looking glass to me.
As Mark Levin would say, we're not a serious country. That these are the arguments we're having. You think China will ever have an argument about something like this with their military?
Yeah. Well, he couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you so much, Bruce Wolf and Chris here on the Weekly Wrap.
Wow, we read it, we saw the documentation, we saw the level of detail. Jack Smith going to Subway today is a message to Donald Trump. Donald Trump tries to intimidate people. He tries to bully people. He tries to scare you away. That was Jack Smith with no words and a simple $5 sub in his hand saying, I'm here, I'm not going.
Bruce Wolf and Sitting in for or standing in, because he's a stand-up comic too, for Tim Slagle, is Dobie Maxwell. Dobie, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
It's always a blast to come in there. I am the Arlene Francis of D-level celebrities that comes in at the last second.
Well, first of all, Arlene Francis was A-level back in her day. She and do you remember the whole What's My Line panel?
She was no Bennett Cerf.
Bennett Cerf.
Dorothy Kilgallen.
Dorothy Kilgallen. And of course they would have
Nipsey Russell.
Well,
I'm kidding.
Yeah, I don't think Nipsey Russell, but they would have like Steve Allen. They'd have a guest panelist.
Okay.
And, I think they had some of the most amazing people. I want to say that Albert Einstein was the mystery guest once. I think he signed in on the blackboard with E = MC squared. I'm not sure. I may be making that up, but it's fine.
Comb your hair, mystery guest.
Right, exactly. Hey, Al, you're on national television. If you wouldn't want to be caught on candid camera in the show before this, with your hair uncombed, why don't you have it combed when you're sitting here
and light the pipe too?
So you didn't see this. We just showed some tape of this guy, Jack Smith. Are you familiar with Jack Smith at all? Not everybody.
I'm not.
Okay, so he's like this prosecutor who's going to indict Trump for what happened on January 6th, and they showed him on CNN, and they were lavishing praise on him. He went over to Subway to get a sandwich, and this is supposed to be some metaphor for something. I don't know, maybe that he's got a $5 foot long in his pants. I have no idea, but you could have laughed at that, Dobie, even though I kind of stumbled through it.
I'm sorry, Bruce. Right. I apologize. I was analyzing your expert commentary. I wasn't expecting a punchline.
Anyway, nobody really understands what Jack Smith is doing as of this writing or taping, because he wants to indict Trump for January 6th, but nobody can quite grasp what the theory is going to be. I mean, maybe we should wait till we see the indictment. But somebody said that he's going to get Trump for trying to defraud the United States, except you can't really get somebody for that. You got to show that there's some kind of money, like you were trying to defraud people to get money for fundraising. It seems like a bunch of nothing at this point, but so does so many of the other things that they've come up with against Trump. So you think if you throw enough of it against enough $5 footlongs against the wall, that one of them will stick.
It's a bunch of hooey is what it is, Bruce. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but
exactly.
The Little Rascal said it, so that's hooey.
Yeah, I mean, there you go. So we can move on to that. What I brought you on for, Dobie, was there's this book that a lot of us blue noses want to get banned in the grade schools because, among other things, it describes anal sex for children, and we do actually have a graphic of that.
Is this a Dr. Seuss book? Green eggs and anal?
There we go. But I mean, I don't even know if we could show the whole, the whole description. And the thing is that you got people like former President Obama and the American Library Association saying this is terrible. We shouldn't ban books. Well, there isn't really any banning of books. What they're doing is they're trying to make it age appropriate. And first of all, I don't know that this particular one is appropriate for any particular age. I mean, unless you were doing shock jockery on the loop in the year 2004, Dobie, which you were doing. So
I was not really doing that. I was
no, you weren't.
No, not shock.
But I mean, are we too old school? That
yes, yes. The world is already going down the road to hell. We're just in the way. You damn kids, get off my lawn. No, we're not old school, Bruce. It should be bad. Think about it. Did you know what a sex change was when you're 8? I did not. Now they're.
Do you remember Christine Jorgensen?
I do.
Okay, so she was like, and then there was Renee Richards, the tennis player, like about
Renee
Richards, like about 15. I always got Dr. Renee Richards and Dr. Richard Kimball mixed up. I was a confused little child.
A one-armed man and a testicle.
Yeah, right. She was playing a one-armed tennis player, and she had that would equalize the tennis match when she became the woman. She played this one-armed. It was Bobby Riggs with one arm tied behind his back. which by the way, did you ever hear? You probably remember the Bobby Riggs Billie Jean King match.
Yes.
Well, I saw it on TV. You saw it on TV, and this was this triumphant moment. And Then ESPN had a report like about 10 years ago, and we are nothing if not up to date on what ESPN did 10 years ago, that that the whole thing may have been fixed, that match with Billie Jean King may have been rigged, that Bobby Riggs had some gambling debts, and he had just beaten Margaret Court a few weeks before, and she was better than Billie Jean King at that time, and then he loses to Billie Jean, and I don't know what to believe anymore.
Well, if you look at that picture that we just saw, there's a fuzzy image right back. I can see a young Vince McMahon Jr. So I think he might have fixed it like the WWE.
Right.
And
right.
And he got a little cut of the take.
There's a rule of the weekly what's the name of our show again? The Weekly Weekly Rap podcast.
Weekly World News.
There's a rule of it, and the rule is all conversations with Dobie Maxwell must devolve into discussion of world wrestling. Yeah, yes. Or preferably one of its many predecessors, like in the 1960s. It's got to come down to Edward Carpentier and Dick the Bruiser,
the Flying Frenchman, and Dick the Bruiser, the most dangerous man in wrestling.
Yeah. And I
think you were the most dangerous man in radio for quite a few years. I don't know if you ever got your trophy.
Not really. I was a great third wheel.
What a great way to be. You were the Mel Kiper Jr. Every year, Mel Kiper's on. Bruce Wolf, every time someone got blown out of the loop, Bruce Wolf kept his job. I love that, man. I respect you for it.
I was right. I survived you.
Richard Afflis.
Is that Dick the Bruiser right there?
That's Dick the Bruiser right there in his dental plan.
Do you know that Dick the Bruiser, actually, he did play for the Green Bay Packers for a short time, didn't he?
He did.
I think. Yeah. I mean, I think he went under the name Bart Starr, if I'm not mistaken, and won 2 Super Bowls. But yeah, no. So anyway, moving on. It's interesting. So you follow Tucker Carlson at all?
I love Tucker Carlson.
All right, so you love Tucker Carlson. I think he's a lying sack of crap. But okay,
do you? Why is that?
But because first of all, the January 6th stuff, the revelations on January. He showed the guy, with the Viking hat on, and it wasn't Fran Tarkenton. It was,
Alan Page.
Right. And the guy, and it was somewhat comical there, but the guy's name was Jacob Chansley. And he tried to make it sound like, with selective editing, that the government workers, the police, just kind of ushered this guy through, and that he wasn't any harm or didn't do anything wrong. That's not what happened. He showed like 2 minutes of what happened. He didn't show the other 56 minutes. And that's the problem with Tucker. I mean, so the guy was disruptive. But here's one thing that Tucker actually makes an interesting point about the economy. And this is what I wanted to talk about. Okay. He's worried, and I think we all are coming up with this living in this AI age. And I don't know about you, but
not Allen Iverson.
Right. Practice. What do we need to practice anymore? Practice. I could just don't talk to me. I can have an AI do my job for me now. I don't even need to practice.
I think it's frightening.
When we're living in this era where everybody's job is going to be in jeopardy at some point. But Tucker worries about the truckers. And say that 10 times real fast.
Tucker's truckers.
They're going to lose their jobs when we have driverless cars. And there's a lot of guys who will lose their jobs, lose their pride, because every person has to have pride in what he does, and so he wants to delay the march of technological progress. Here's my problem with Tucker. He makes it sound like these truckers are stupid. They're gonna know when the technology is available. And they're just keeping their jobs because there's some kind of, I don't know, the Teamsters or somebody won't let the AI take over. But the trucker shouldn't feel so bad because, look, I'm an attorney right now of sorts. My job is going to be gone. Yours going to be the last guy to actually work because that's the most creative thing.
I don't know about that. I'm just trying to think of what to come up with the AI and the Bandit, a movie.
Okay, I mean,
a driverless truck.
We'll workshop it. But what I'm just saying is that, nobody likes it. When people are put out of work and they feel useless, but they're not idiots. The truckers, and so Tucker can rant all he wants about that, about protecting their jobs, but you see what I'm saying there? Dobie? This is
I do. What
quite a
will they do though?
conundrum.
What will these said truckers do if they're not employed in the trucking industry?
I have no idea. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's what I'm
really,
saying. If they got to have jobs for somewhere. That's why Henry Ford paid $5 an hour wages back then, because he knew that they would buy from his stores.
right.
We paid them, but
right. No, I get it, but I mean, that's no. This is a big problem, and we've got guys like my friend Jim Pethokoukis of the American Enterprise Institute to drop a name, who believe that this technology, everybody is doomsaying about it, but in fact, it's going to create more opportunity for people. There's some wonderful things on the horizon. I'm not so sanguine about that, Dobie Maxwell. I'm thinking that people are going to get caught in the trap of not really having anything to do, and they're going to be sitting around like me podcasting.
Well, it's okay to podcast. You have anybody to watch the podcast. That's the problem.
Well, really, I mean, that's it.
Artificial intelligence implies intelligence. I don't see a whole lot of that. That's why I talk about wrestling so much.
Well,
it's made for idiots, but not by idiots.
What if we had artificially intelligent audience members? Like you have seat fillers at the Academy Awards.
Sure, yeah,
and
I like it.
And we actually could manufacture these audiences for people. I mean, it's all part of the metaverse, right? Mm-hmm. So, well, thanks for helping me solve that problem. We've got other things to talk about.
You'll get my bill.
We got more professional wrestlers to whose names we should drop.
Abdullah the Butcher.
Hold on. Save your Mitsu Arakawa and Dr. Moto for the next segment. Bruce Wolf and Dobie Maxwell on the Weekly Wrap.
I got 3 cases of Bud Light. Hey, and I want to say this. If you're gay, bless you. If you're transgender, bless you. And if you have a problem with that.
Bruce Wolf, Dobie Maxwell sitting in for Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. And I don't know if you saw that little intro we just had there, Dobie, but Charles Barkley apparently has gone woke.
No, don't tell me this.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Yeah, he ripped the people who have stopped drinking Bud Light, which is just about everybody. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of daring on his part, but he called them a bunch of rednecks and all that. And
well, how about it's just crappy beer? How about it's got nothing to do with politics?
Well, yeah, it's.
I'm from Milwaukee, and I ought to know.
Yeah, you sure should. What is your beer of choice?
I'm a teetotaler. It makes ugly people reproduce, and it's my personal protest against it. But if I were to drink beer, it wouldn't be anything from St. Louis.
Neither one of us has standing then to talk about this, because I don't drink beer either. So if
I did, it'd be one of them that made the bodily sounds like Schlitz or Pabst or Blatz,
or had some really great commercials.
Yes.
Which Bud Light did have some great commercials until they came up with Dylan Mulvaney. Yeah.
They could have gotten any Ozzie Smith. He wasn't doing anything. Joe Garagiola or Garagiola. How do you say it?
Did you ever watch the movie Best in Show?
Yeah. Oh, one of my favorite movies.
So
Eugene Levy is funny in anything he does.
Yeah. But also the guy who played the Joe Garagiola, Fred Willard.
Uh-huh.
So what I loved about it, it was basically a part of it was spoofing Joe Garagiola hosting the dog show.
Okay.
Because Joe Garagiola would always try to turn the dog show into a Yogi Berra story because and say it was about baseball. And
sure.
and that's and that's what they did in Best in Show. But anyway,
I did not know that.
I actually do have a Charles Barkley personal story. I don't think it's relevant, but
go right ahead.
Please feel free to heckle me.
I'm on, so why would that have anything to do with relevance?
No problem. So, our family was vacationing in Scottsdale, Arizona, across from the Hyatt Gainey Ranch. Kind of hoity-toity back in the day.
Hoity-toity, artsy-fartsy.
And we were in there. We rented a gym across the street to have a basketball game. With
Jim Backus, you rented.
Exactly. And so we rented this gym, and we had it for about an hour and a half, and we're playing basketball, and we're all Jewish guys who don't. I mean, my brother-in-law, who is a great concert pianist, I was afraid he was going to wreck his hands, get smashed. But he could take like about, a 14-footer, which was long range for us. But he'd have to hoist it because just couldn't roll it off the fingertips and jump. But he was pretty good at it. Well, we're playing this game, and who walks through the doors wearing this white terry cloth outfit, I guess, or jumpsuit? It's Charles Barkley, and
he was playing for the Suns then.
The I think he may have been retired at that point. I'm not even sure, but even the juxtaposition of the white outfit against his black skin, and he's such a big man, he's such a presence, and everybody knows him and everybody loves him. He comes in and he kept walking, and we go, "Oh, Charles, you want to play with us?" Which would have been hysterical. But he did give my brother-in-law a tip saying that he shouldn't hoist it and that he should just let it roll off his fingertips. Of course, that's easy for him to say. So, since then, I really loved Charles, and I loved his golf swing. He actually improved his golf swing. He was actually pretty good recently. Got the swing back. But when he does stuff like this, I mean, there's a reason that Bud Light is tanked. And you got this silent majority saying enough already. But Barkley is I think he's afraid of the influencers, who have control of this stuff, whatever an influencer is. I know that you and I aren't that.
No. If my opinion matters, let's change the subject, because I'm still waiting for the rabbit to get tricked cereal. That's about where my pop culture status is.
Sure. Weren't we all?
Oh, we were.
So I actually tried something new. There was a tease for a show that Peyton Manning is producing, and I actually. Do you ever watch the Peyton cast or the Manning cast on the?
Is this with the brothers?
I actually enjoy it.
He's great, very funny.
They're both real funny. Eli is got a real wry sense of humor. Peyton's good too.
Yeah,
and,
I agree.
It's good, especially for some fungible Monday night game that I don't necessarily care about, just to hear them talking about the game. But Peyton came up with a new show for Netflix. And I think it's just about quarterbacks, and they claim to have all this footage that you can never get. And I watched about 10 or 15 minutes of it, and it was they had a lot of, nice action footage of, Kirk Cousins getting smashed by opposing linemen. And, you could almost feel it. And it went into their personal lives.
Okay.
And that's where I got just totally bored. I didn't care how, Patrick Mahomes met his wife. I thought, she got pretty lucky because, she married a guy who's making $50 million a year. And I'm sure she's a wonderful person. But it's just, I don't care about how these kids met each other. And so I turned it off after about 10 minutes. Am I just getting old and cranky? Get off my lawn?
No, because there are too many other options. You can go on YouTube or MySpace or any other kind of outlet. To me, you better be shooting bullets, because there are other choices. So if your show's not interesting, got to find it.
Now, do you? Other than polish up your World Wrestling Federation trading cards from a couple of decades ago. Do you have any? Do you watch any of these any Netflix series or Hulu or anything like that?
I do not, and I'm thinking, I've never seen an episode of Seinfeld, The Sopranos, because for 30 years I've been out entertaining. I could, but these are,
Dobie, these are cultural touchstones.
They are cultural touchstones, but I more do of a kabuki theater, more of an interpretive dance of comedy, and I choose to be neutral of all American pop culture.
I get
references.
it. So I guess it would fall on deaf ears if I asked you if you were planning on seeing, and certainly you haven't seen yet because they just had the premiere of it, of the new Barbie movie. You are familiar with Barbie from 1959.
See it. I'm in it. Now, here's a piece of trivia, because you, Bruce Wolf, are one of the few pieces of trivia.
Yeah.
Barbie, where was Barbie's alleged hometown state?
See, I thought this was going to be some kind of dirty joke about
dirty jokes. So we can do that afterwards on our own time.
Barbie's hometown. I think she was like the Simpsons. She was from Springfield, any state, USA. Where was?
Believe it or not, no. She was from Wisconsin.
Really?
Yes, she was, and I believe, I can't think of it right now. There's a fictitious town like Summers, Wisconsin. What is her middle name? I'll buy you a corned beef sandwich at Max's Deli.
Barbie Klaus.
Barbie Klaus.
No.
That's pretty funny. I'll give you a pickle for that one. No,
Yeah,
Barbie Millicent Roberts.
Roberts. She's got a last name?
Yes, Barbie Millicent Roberts is her entire name. Now, if I go on Jeopardy, they'll never ask that question, but I know it. Dadgummit.
That is, yeah. I mean, that's a Barbie.
I couldn't tell you any Supreme Court justices, but that I know.
No, right. Well, there's a Justice Roberts. So, I mean, if you just guessed.
But she doesn't look like Barbie.
Or he doesn't.
No, well, you know what? You could identify as a she.
And, I got to tell you, Justice Roberts, not smooth down there anymore because he came up with some pretty tough decisions recently in affirmative action and other things.
Yeah, that's so. Now, I'm sure you've discussed that on a previous program. It's a big issue.
So the thing is that, well, look, just because we haven't seen the movie doesn't mean we can't review it, because what I do is I just read a couple of reviews and then I base my opinion on the reviews I left so that I can, sound intelligent about things. And I've read about 2 or 3. I used to do this with Siskel and Ebert.
Yes.
I would do reviews of their reviews. Now here's a picture of Ryan Gosling and Margot Robbie, I guess, who's playing Barbie. Now here's one problem. She's not built like Barbie. And I mean, the whole point of Barbie, there were 2 points about Barbie, if you catch my drift.
Yes.
And she doesn't have them. So
that's acting. It's called acting. You got.
It's a little bit disappointing.
I think Ken is anatomically like the Ken doll, though, just a flat surface.
I guess so. But you got people like Rich Roper raving over this stuff, and how wonderfully imaginative it is, and it's just it. But I'm understanding that somebody wrote that. Imagine the Mario and Luigi movie, and I know you don't even know what I'm talking about there.
Oh, I've got the book.
Okay, you got the book. Okay, imagine it being done by people who absolutely hate Mario and Luigi. So that's what happened here, and I don't need that.
But it questions me in my old age. Who is this movie for? Who would go
Interesting.
pay money
it's
to
not
sit in a theater
kids.
to watch? No, it doesn't look like it is.
And it's trying to sound hip, and that's difficult because remember, hip is
like
not
I do that all the time
term anymore, right?
Word.
Exactly. So, all right, we'll close this. A quick look. I saw a tweet that Paul McCartney was going to reveal some new stuff about the origins of his songs, and I was thinking to myself, we already know everything about every Beatles song that was ever written. We know, for example, that Yesterday was originally going to be titled what? We had a working title. What was it called?
Was it Spaghetti? No, it's
close.
I know it. Yes.
Yes.
Scrambled eggs.
Scrambled eggs. So, yes. I mean, Dobie, we all know all this stuff. So I was thinking, unless he was going to be interviewed posthumously, and by posthumous, I mean by
I thought he was already dead.
Well, Chris, he was, remember, back in the 60s, we thought he was dead. Well, if he were interviewed by Chris Farley, Farley interviewed him on Saturday Night Live. Okay, yeah, I can see that. But other than that, I can't think that there will be anything revelatory. Well, you know what was revelatory? Talking to you. And
always a treat. Where is Mr. Slagle? Does he have a big gig? I wish him well, but it's always
he's just stuck in traffic in Atlanta, Georgia right now.
Oh, so, who isn't?
As always, thank you.
Anytime you call the bullpen, I'm here eating a sandwich.
Thank you, Dobie. And next time we will be talking about more about Moose Cholak,
Big Cat Ernie Ladd,
and Hans Schmidt, the madman. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Bruce. See ya.
Bye-bye. Bruce Wolf on the Weekly Wrap.
And that's the Weekly Wrap on radio and television. Follow Bruce at Bruce Wolf Shy on Twitter and Tim at timslagle.com. The Weekly Wrap with Bruce Wolf, a CP Pods production.